Lokati here. Let's take a look at the patch notes for 0.2.0 today and do some theory crafting today. Come on, GGG. Do us right. All right, so we're going to fly through unnecessary stuff and we'll spend time on interesting necessary stuff. First off, Dawn of the Hunt League. We know nothing complex here. New content and features, a new class, new ascendancies, some new skills, primarily spear skills, a bunch of new supports, of which 90% of them are going to be useless. Spears and bucklers added, so we got spears. 100 new unique items. I'm sure there like 4 of those will be good. And then 8 new in-game maps with new encounters and new rewards. This one's actually really cool. I like this. The new unique strong boxes. We'll see. Rogue Exiles are good. I like the addition of the Rogue Exiles. As and Wisps look a little annoying, but we'll see. 15 new socketable items with new modifiers that you can craft onto your items. Good. Reliquary keys, okay. Essences can now have Val Orbs applied to them. Just adds into the more crafting, although we're still very limited crafting. and continued incremental improvement to sound artifacts and environments. Alright, in-game changes. When they talked about this, areas of corruption now have a central corrupted nexus. This is all in the initial chatter on the game. Unlock reaching the nexus will begin the task of cleansing corruptions. You have corruption versus cleansed areas for different materials. A boss for each faction has been added. Additional corruption monster factions have been introduced. Corrupted monsters have their visuals and animations in it. This is useless information. Cleansing a nexus, cleansed maps, fracturing orbs on cleansed maps, so on and so forth. You can now respawn and return to a map if you die until you get to higher modifiers on the waystones. Everyone in the party gets the same number of respawns. You can enter and exit maps as much as you'd like. Once you start a boss fight, we'll switch over to the boss respawning system as opposed to the portal-y respawning system. That's fine. Decide to rush the map boss will enter and die. You'll respawn to the boss checkpoint and only the map boss will be present. All the other monsters will be removed. That's interesting. The number of towers on the Atlas has been reduced drastically. Tablets inherently add twice as many mechanics to the towers. It's good. Tower maps now spawn with extra content. We knew that. Number of maps affected by the tablet has been doubled on average. Killing rare monsters no longer has a chance to grant monster modifiers to the remaining rare monsters. I didn't know that was a thing. Increase the chance for rare monsters to have 3 or 4 modifiers and more drops. Oh. To compensate for the removal. So not more, same amount of drops probably. Checkpoint now spawns when the last available content in the map has been completed. Okay. Extra content now starts spawning further away from the Ziggurat Refuge. Okay. How waystones can be obtained in maps has been redesigned. Waystones can no longer drop at a lower tier than the map you're in. That's mostly good. Waystones dropped by the final boss are always 1 tier higher. Does that mean T16s when we do a T15? Maybe. Final map bosses and the final naturally occurring rare monsters have a 100% chance to drop a waystone. That's good. So be guaranteed with the appropriate investment. Waystone stuff. Okay. Remove the chances for waystones to drop at a higher tier and lower the amount of waystone quantity available in the passive tree. That's because we're forcing waystones. That's fine. Sources of map boss have a chance and replaced with increased quantity of waystones dropped by map bosses. That's good. Up to 10 waystones available for purchase. It looks like waystone sustain in general is much better. Unique maps for Atlas skill points. Has Mirren stuff, unique map stuff, tablet stuff. Like all this is all just more modifiers, more values, more this, less this. All bosses that are affected will now drop specific unique items at any difficulty. Okay. Pinnacle boss content now takes roughly half the amount of time to unlock compared to before. Pinnacle bosses have been made much easier to grow. Players no longer lose experience from dying in Simulacrum, the Twisted Domain, Olros Arena, Inside Logbooks, the Crux of Nothingness, anyway. Okay, so you don't lose death for doing in-game content. Whatever. Move the location of the stash in Simulacrum to make it harder to accidentally start the encounter. That's good. Not that that ever happened to me, but reduce the power of notables on the league-specific Atlas tree passes for acquiring. So the notables are no longer as good for the in-game content. That's not a good thing. Delirium encounters and maps now reward 1 Simulacrum Splinter each time a reward type is filled. That's a nerf to Splinter farming. Base number of monsters spawned in Delirium encounters has been reduced, and the number that emerged by touching fracturing mirrors greatly increased. Okay. Reduce the intensity of fog. The number of monsters spawned from breaches has been reduced. Boo. A high percentage of the total number of breach monsters spawned are now spawned earlier in the encounter. Okay. Reduce the number of small breach chests found. So less breach stuff. And the rest of the omens now appear as ritual rewards and map areas. The hideout quickly have. Okay, if you actually. Okay. Nothing important here. Nothing important here. We have Atlas passive tree changes. Added support for stuff, like the new stuff. The spirits, the rogue exiles, everything's been reworked. The deadly evolution has been replaced with ecological shift, causing your maps to have 40% more chance to random extra content, 20% less number of monster packs in your map. You can now obtain 40 passive points. So the notables are less powerful, but we have more points. So net, no change. The crumbling walls now has a 10% chance for additional breach and a 1%. So they massively nerfed breach farming. Like there's less breach monsters that spawn, and there's less breaches that spawn. The extreme archaeology no longer causes monsters to spawn with 20% of their life missing. So no more archaeology spam. Well, what does it do? What? Okay, so it no longer causes them to spawn with 20%. What does it do? Frantic Invasion now has 50% increased quantity of breach splinters, so they're nerfing most of the in-game farming. Like this is all just nerfs to farm. General improvements. I don't care about general improvements. Player changes. Characters are now required to be at least 25 to enter cruel difficulty areas and 50 to enter in-game areas. Players' base attack speed with unarmed attacks is now 1.4, previously 1.2. Palm attacks now have 25% less attack speed to compensate for this change. So the unarmed attacks have less attack speed that no one was using, and they buffed unarmed attack speed. This is a buff to concoction, I guess. So, like from a buff perspective, that is 0.2. So 15% more attack speed with concoctions. That's good. Freeze now builds up slower. Okay. Ailment threshold is now half of maximum life. Okay, easier to ailment. Presence radius is smaller. Monster modifiers stolen have had the effect adjusted to be more appropriate. And nerfed. Probably nerfed. The cruel version now provides less life because life was overpowered, so we needed less life. The worn sandals trial of Secumus Afflicted now has 30% less movement speed if you've been hit by an enemy recently. This was necessary. Whatever. Blocking a hit by raising your shield or parrying now gives you a chance to avoid accumulating heavy stun buildup equal to the chance you would otherwise have had to evade the hit. That's interesting. So there's some hybridization between evasion and block. Not that anyone uses block. Unified stun mechanics and terminology between players and monsters. The stagger that players suffer when blocking too much damage with their shield raised is now a heavy stun. Players are still unable to be heavy stunned unless the mechanic specifically states otherwise. Okay. Players can no longer be light stunned while their shield is raised. That's a buff. Modifiers to curse effect have been changed to instead apply to curse magnitude. That means they are multiplicative with any other modifiers to the effect of the debuff on it. For example, curse magnitude and slow magnitude are now multiplicative with each other for temporal change. That's good. This is a buff to curse effect. Player created objects no longer have monster power value. Okay, so no more ice walls for triggering spells. Ice crystals can no longer apply on kill effects, such as Trample Toe. So, Trample Toe, Herald of Ash nerfs. No more ice wall overkill nonsense. Players have 50% more. Although this specifically says ice crystals, so you could still shield wall overkill nonsense. Players have 50% more light stun threshold per time stun in the past 4 seconds. Okay, so less small stun chains. Doesn't start instead of in the heavy stun. So less heavy stun chains. Heavy stun is now 3 seconds. That's crazy long heavy stun. Players cannot block or evade hits while they're heavy stunned. Critical weakness now track duration individually rather than refreshing the new stack is gained. This is a massive nerf to Winter's Eye, which is going to hit crit builds a lot. Pin targets can no longer evade. Pinning a target now also causes them to be light stunned. Okay. So pinning is stronger. So pin got buffed defensively. The base duration for endurance frenzy charges is now 15 seconds, previously 20. Okay, small nerf to the duration of charges. Fully broken armor now causes enemies to take 20% increased physical damage from hits. So fully broken armor, 20% more fizz. It's a big buff to fizz. Revivable minions can now spawn with their skills on cooldown. No more spamming minions dump spells out that have cooldowns. Okay. No more weapon swap, minion swap nonsense. That's good. That's kind of a unintended cheaty playstyle. Ancestrally boost slam now has 30% more damage and 20% more area of effect. Small boost to one slam every 3 seconds, whatever it is. Persistent minions granted by Ascendancy passive skills will now automatically be summoned when you allocate the passive skill the first time. Okay. Now you don't have to click on it. Players and monsters now count as moving while Players and monsters now only count as moving while moving rather than for the whole length of many animations that have some movement during some part of them. Sure. Setting a stat to a specific value, such as chaos, now occurs before the conversion is applied to the stat, rather than being ignored by the conversion. This is big. This is a huge, massive nerf to a lot of builds, especially Stormweaver, especially Chaos Inoculation, Ghost Drive builds. So no more stacking conversions. And so this is a big, massive nerf to a lot of builds from a survivability standpoint. Ascendancy changes. Titan, the surprising strength, provides 50% more damage against heavy stun enemies. No one cares. The Earthbreaker now provides 25% chance for slam skills used to cause aftershocks, previously 20%. So Titan got tiny, insignificant buffs, slams, and stun damage. Like that's That's nothing. Warbringer, the war caller's bellows now causes war cries to explode corpses, 25% of life instead of providing corpses in your presence explode when you war cry. War cries explode corpses rather than corpses explode in your presence. Oh, this allows for war cry area of effect to scale explosion radius. That's fine. The turtle charm now has 25% less block chance. Okay. The encase in jail jade skill has been reworked. Grant guard based off your maximum life for each jade. That's good, but no one's going to use it. Ancestral spirit granted by the answered call ascendancy now has minions from this skill have accuracy rating per dex, damage per strength. Pinning skill cast faster. Jade Hulk has more stun buildup. No one's going to use ancestral spirits anyway, so it doesn't matter. War Caller's bellow buff from Ancestral Warhorn now grants you 10 rage per hit and 20% increase. I mean, it's good, but no one's going to use Ancestral Spirits. The Power Shell Aura from the Spirit Turtle grants 80% increased defenses and 40%, but no one's going to use it. So this increased chance to block is irrelevant because if you're going to run block, you're going to be block capped anyway. So Warbringer overall, almost no changes of significance. So very, very few changes to Warbringer, which is sad because Warbringer is not in a great position. The Gemling Legionnaire. Enhanced effectiveness now grants 20% less attribute. Ooh. 20% less attribute. Gemling Legionnaire PoE. The Gemling Legionnaire, this is the one that doubled the effectiveness of the passives, right? Type what I'm. No, not Fextra Life. I wish I could ban this website completely from my search tool. Yeah, this is the one that doubled the bonuses. So now you can no longer. So you either have 20% less attributes or half effectiveness of stats. So that's a pretty huge nerf. That's a pretty huge nerf. Integrated efficiency passive skill has been swapped with gem studded. It no longer provides +3 skill slots. Instead, it causes skills to gain 20% increased damage per socketed red gem. Skills gain 6% increased skill speed per green. That's interesting. So they're moving Gemling Legionnaire in a little bit of a different direction, but that's a buff ish. It's a utility change. The implanted gems no longer provides +1 to level of all skills, so it now provides a choice between +2 of all skills with a strength requirement. Okay, that's also interesting. They're opening up some builds for Gemling Legionnaire that are not attribute stacking and nerfing attribute stacking. So they're opening up new builds for Gemling Legionnaire. That's a good thing. Witch Hunter, the No Mercy passive now causes you to deal 40% more damage based on their missing concentration. Fuck GGG. So tiny damage buff to No Mercy. And the Obsessive Rituals now provides 35% less. And Sorcery Ward, Barrier Recharge delays on 2 seconds at all gem levels. And moderate buff to Sorcery Ward, which no one will use still. So they basically just left Witch Hunter bad. Deadeye, the Thrilling Chase Ascendancy skill now provides when you consume frenzy charges, you count as having consumed twice as many. Previously 50% chance, described in a slightly different way. When you consume frenzy charges, you count as having consumed twice as many. So this is just a buff. Just a straight buff to frenzy consuming skills. That's a good thing. Pathfinder. Pathfinder, one of my personal favorites. So they already got a little buff. They got some more attack speed with concoctions. Running assault, no one's going to take. If they do, it's not relevant. You can move faster when attacking. The concocted chemistry, enduring elixirs no longer has a prerequisite. I gotta look at these ascendancy trees again, see what they're specifying. Oh, where is? So the connected chemistry ascendancy passive skill has been removed. Yep. Enduring elixirs no longer has a prerequisite. So enduring elixirs is just where connected chemistry is. Added new multi-choice practical remedies that now provides the ability to allocate grounding stick, dousing vial, thawing campfire, which provides immunity, and immunity. So no one's going to take that. Added new sustainable practices, which provides 30% evasion rates, also grants elemental damage reduction, requires practical remedies. So buffs to defenses at the cost of ascendancy nodes. And that's gonna kill most options for Pathfinder builds, because Pathfinder still is you gotta run concoction, so there goes like you have to run concoctions, there goes 2. You have to run Traveler's Wisdom as 2. No one's really using poisons yet, but supposedly they're going to be buffed. So if you're not running a poison build, you get easy access to 1 immunity, and evasion rating grants elemental damage reduction, which is good. So buffs to the defenses as long as you have the ascendancy nodes to use. Acolyte of Chalupa. Embrace Darkness now provides +8 to maximum darkness per level. This is irrelevant. Darkness is garbage. The Ravenous Doubts Ascendancy passive skill no longer provides Mana Leech as instant. Instead, now provides Mana Leech recovers based on the damage types as well as physical damage. So you lose Mana Leech being instant to get Elemental and Chaos Leech, but you still don't. But you don't have instant Mana Leech. And they nerfed the darkness buff and on. So, Acolyte of Chalupa is actually nerfed. I didn't think that it could get worse, but it did. Invoker defenses buffed. Not that it needed that. 1 spirit per 8 energy shield, 1 spirit per 20 evasion. Spirit nerfed. So the Invoker defenses buffed, spirit nerfed. I mean, these are minor. The spirit one is actually pretty big because there are some breakpoints that were important, and now it's going to be harder to hit those breakpoints. The Elemental Expression skill now deals 40% more damage at all gem levels. Minor buff. I mean, it's a significant buff, the Elemental Expression, but I don't think that plays a significant role in the character anyway. So I think this is irrelevant. Blood Mage. The Blood Barb's Ascendancy passive no longer provides 10% of damage gained as extra physical. It now causes bleeding you inflict on cursed targets to be aggravated. I'm trying to push Blood Mage towards a bleed build, but I don't know if there's a viable bleed build. Added a new Between the Cracks Ascendancy passive. Critical hits ignore monster armor. Requires Sangomancy. Again, That is a buff, but like new fizz crit build possible, maybe. Infernalist. I loved Infernalist. Let's see what they did. The demon form skill now has a 15-second cooldown. No one cares. Maximum demon flame 10. Infernalist dead. Demon form dead. You now lose a flat amount of life per second per demon form, scaling with skill level, rather than a percentage. The dodge roll while in demon form also had its distance reduced. Demon form dead. Like dead. The Seething Body Ascendancy passive skill now has, while on high Infernal Flame, you and your allies gain 50% of damage as fire. Okay, no one cares. The Grinning Immolation Ascendancy passive skill now provides 50% more critical damage bonus. Okay, so Infernalists can now crit, even though they're not crit based. Pyromantic Pact now causes 50% of Infernal Flame to be lost per second if none is gained in the past 2 seconds. That's irrelevant. The Bringer of Flame Ascendancy now causes all damage from you and your allies and your presence contribute to Ignite, Chance, and Magnitude instead of all damage contribute to Ignite, Chance, and Magnitude instead of providing while not on low all damage. Okay, so they can now Ignite better. The Loyal Hellhound no longer causes taking. Oh my god. Okay, Demon Form dead. Hellhound dead. Why are they nerfing Infernalist in the ground? The Master of Darkness now grants Demon Flame has no maximum. Oh, okay. Demon Form's not dead. Demon Form requires more Ascendancy nodes, but it's not dead. The small man, although the we'll worry about that later. The small mana Ascendancy passive now provides 3%. Really? A nerf to mana? After allocating Pyromantic Pact, Ascendancy passive skill, you will now have at least one maximum Infernal Flame, even with 100% reduced maximum mana. Okay, I find they nerfed a broken interaction. Using Blink while in Demon Form now plays an appropriate animation instead of landing. The nerf to the dodge roll, also dumb. But Hellhound's dead, so Infernalist not as tanky, and Demon Form requires more Ascendancies, so that could change some of those builds. Chronomancer. Circular Heartbeat Ascendancy passive skill has been removed. Oh, well, that was actually a really good node. The Quicksand Hourglass Ascendancy passive skill. Every 10 seconds gain 50% more for 5 seconds. 12 for 4. Okay. Add a new Flood of Echoes that grants the Unleash skill. Maybe some builds around Unleash, mostly unchanged to a dead class. The Force of Will Ascendancy, Stormweaver. This is where we're going to see some nerfy nerfs. Well, nerfy nerfs incoming. The Force of Will Ascendancy passive skill now provides 1% increased effective Arcane Surge per 25 maximum mana. So, mana regen got a 50, 60% nerf. %60 nerf. The mana regen got 60% nerfed on Stormweaver. That's big. Scouring Winds now causes exposure you inflict to lower by 12%. Okay, so exposure ascendancy nerfed. I mean, that's like 8% damage. Strike twice no longer provides 50% less, instead provides 25% less shock magnitude you inflict. That's also big. So instead of it being 100% more shock, it is now 50% more shock. So 50% less. No, that would be 25% less shock magnitude. Small mana ascendancy passive skills no longer provide 4%, now provide increased mana regen. And so that would be 12% less maximum mana. Oh, sorry, 16% less maximum mana. Big Stormweaver nerfs. I would say around 20% less damage and maybe 50% less mana regen. This combined with not being able to convert before reductions is going to be huge. Huge. This node up here hits Stormweaver the hardest. Big nerfs there to Stormweaver. Now we got passive skill tree changes. Blind related clusters, volatility, ranged and melee. We added a bunch of stuff. Okay, but we don't know what it is, but we added a bunch of stuff. There are many new clusters, many existing passive skills updated. Added new Crimson Assault Keystone that causes bleeding you inflict to be aggravated and bleeding base duration to be 1 second. So that's an interesting one. So 3 times the damage. I think aggravated is times damage. We'll have to look that up. So bleeding does have some possibilities now. Trusted kinship allows you to have 2 companions at different heights, causing companions to have +1 to each every 2 of that defense. It also causes you to have 30% defenses. I don't know what companions are yet, but I mean, this is a buff to the defense of the companions and a nerf to yours. You'll no longer be able to steal them, but existing ones will function. So lasting, no escape, pin down, potent concoctions, lasting concoctions, hold focus, break focus. So these are just not in the game, and I don't recall what all of those did. Let's go look. Okay, so this is all flask effect, potent concoctions, lasting concoctions. That's gonna affect the infernalist barrier loop. So by loop loses a lot of flask nodes that are necessary. So by loop could be dead with these changes. 12 jewel sockets have been removed. Existing characters with jewels will use the new reclaim jewels chat command. The acrobatics now grants 75% less evasion, previously 70%. Who cares? Eldritch Battery passive skill now has the additional doubles mana cost. That's big. EB mana cost nerf is going to affect a lot of builds, including Stormweaver and Gemling Legionnaire and Deadeye. I think there were a couple people doing some EB stuff with Deadeye. Giant's Blood now has triple attribute, which only previously affected axes, maces, and swords, but was described as weapons. Oh, so I guess you can't. This is for people that want to dual wield maybe a two-handed mace and then an off-handed spear, something like that. So, and effects, but you can't. Giant's Blood does not let you. It's Giant's Blood still only lets you dual wield two-handed axes, maces, and swords. I don't know exactly what they're doing here. Because Giant's Blood still says axes, maces, swords doesn't include spears. Maybe this is so you can't wield a two-handed axe and a one-handed spear without taking the penalty on the spear, possibly. 40% increased evasion rating if you've dodged recently. Okay, no one cares. 1% increase attack speed per 25 dex. So dex stacking nerfed. So dex stacking nerfed. Increased attack speed by 60%. Like that's big. So more attribute stacking nerfs. Freedom of movement now provides 10% reduced movement penalty from all skills. Okay. The heavy buffer passive skill is 5% of damage taken bypasses energy shield instead of 10% reduced maximum life. Okay, so this is a lich buff for a class that doesn't exist. So heavy buffer notable synergizes well with lich ascendancy nodes because you get 5% damage reduction. That's good. Icebreaker notable passive skill now grants additional freeze threshold. Go to 50%. So Icebreaker got nerfed. Not a big deal. Mana Blessing notable no longer has 5% increase maximum mana. Now provides the max mana nerfs. So the Ascendancy tree has more max mana nerfs. Master Fletching, 20% and 6% now provide 20% increased chance. Ooh. So quiver stacking massively nerfed. So we had 80% before. Now we have 32%. So it's 20, 30, 40, 50. And 20. Oh, and those were 15 each, 30. Yeah. Oof. Oof. That's a big hit. That's a big nerf to bow builds. Huge, huge nerf to bow builds. So we lost 48% quiver effectiveness lost. That's the same thing as gutting four jewel sockets or approximately 12 passive nodes. Like that's a 12 passive node nerf to bows. This is massive. Massive nerf to bow builds. Across the board. The pile on notable passive skill now grants 30% increased armor break effectiveness instead of its previous effects. Pile on. Oh, that's a big nerf. Not that that was really an important one. Polymathy nerfed. Polymathy nerfed to 30% less. That's big. More max mana nerfs. Spaghettification. Spaghettification is more all attributes nerfs. So all attribute stackers are just getting hammered. Split the earth. Notable passage now has 10% chance to use yourself to cause aftershocks, dealing the same damage area previously not specified. That's it. Yeah, that's it. The unhindered now provides 12% reduce while moving. Previous move speed. One of the slow effect on you passive has also been updated. So more movement, build penalty reductions. Unwavering stance. Your stun threshold is doubled instead of cannot be light stunned. That's bad. The small attack damage. Are they gonna nerf? Are they gonna buff fucking Ezomite Peak so that it's not hot garbage now, or is it extra hot garbage now? The small attack damage with nearby ally and killer instincts to replace with a small passive. Okay, well that's fine. That just makes those more valuable. Small passive skills that previously provided 8% increased area of effect from aura skills now have values of 5%. Notable passive 20%. So they're reducing the effective auras from your aura skills. This is gonna affect some of the unwavering stance abuse nerfed. I don't know if it's enough, but it will affect the unwavering stance abuse. Clarify the wording on Iron Grip and Iron Will. Keystone effect, I don't care about that. Alright, skill changes. Skill changes. Many skills have had their base damage or damage growth per level rebalanced. Most of the changes are not specifically mentioned below, as the changes are too widespread. Hence, bat. The mana cost of all attacks, marks, and war cries has been reduced. That's good. Adjusted minion damage, general damage and life is the same early game, but lower than before at higher levels. Minions nerfed. Adjusted target life threshold for explosive demise skill accordingly with life scaling changes. Adjusted cleric's heal life scaling accordingly. Nerf. Arc no longer deals more damage for each remaining chain. Can change 6 to 8 times. Now provides So they nerfed Arc? The skill that no one was using, they nerfed. Okay. Archmage now causes not to gain 3%. %66% nerf. The Archmage. 66, because it scaled up to 9. $66% nerf. The Archmage. Or 70% nerf if you really pushed it. Armor Breaker has had the Armor Breaker amount lowered by roughly 20% at all gem levels. No one cares. Artillery Ballista. Where's Z? Artillery Ballista. Base physical damage scaling now matches that of other totems. Oh. The artillery explosion now converts 100% of physical damage to fire damage. Probably not fire zero. Artillery Ballista could be good. Maybe Ballista build. Maybe. Ancestral Warrior Totem now explicitly states that it wields a two-handed mace to clarify that it benefits from your mace-related stats. Okay, quality now has totem duration. Nerfed. Banner skills now have an aura radius, no one cares. Barrage repeats now 50% less damage at all gem levels. That's a huge nerf to Barrage. Huge nerf to Barrage. Barrier Invocation now only builds energy from enemy hits to energy shield rather than all hits to energy shield. Byloop is dead. Goodbye, Byloop. Where's my Infernalist? Here. Byloop. Dead. Sag. Bleeding Concoction now has 200% more magnitude of bleeding inflicted. So there is going to be a Bleed Pathfinder. Like we just got, like there will be a Bleed Pathfinder now. Blink is now a travel skill. I'm sure that is negative in some way. Bone Blast now has a chance to inflict bleed on hit. Bone Storm Shrapnel has become a general mechanic called Impale, similar to the Impale mechanic of PoE 1. Hits that impale an enemy cause the next hit against the enemy to gain added physical damage. So that Bone Storm nerfed. Which is just a general nerf, but Bone Storm nerfed affects someone was using Bone Storm. I forget. Bone Storm nerfed. Cast on minion death now only gains energy when persistent minions are killed. Okay. Oh. No more cast on death firewall SRS. That whole build is dead. Additionally, minions that are created by a very underleveled minion skill now grant less energy. So, and cast on minion death nerfed for underleveled minions. I don't think that's gonna matter. Cast on minion death is dead. Cast on shock now grants 1 energy per power of enemies you shock with skills. So cast on shock nerfed 50%. Cluster grenades, mini grenade, I don't care. Combat frenzy now has gain a frenzy charge when you freeze, electrocute, or pin. No more than once every. So combat frenzy nerfed by 60%. I mean, that's gonna mainly affect the Deadeye builds. Maybe Invoker builds, but mostly Deadeye builds. Concoction skills now require an unarmed weapon set. They no longer deal damage based on your unarmed damage. Instead, dealing only attack damage specified from the skill, like marks. Concoction skills now require an unarmed weapon set. Does this mean you cannot equip a bow and a quiver? Does this mean that you can no longer equip a bow and quiver? And they also nerfed the flash charges again. Only attack damage specified from the skill, like marks. They no longer deal your base unarmed damage. I don't really understand quite what that means, but I think maybe that means it no longer scales with unarmed damage, like on the tree, maybe? I don't know. That's a confusing one. I'm going to chalk that up to concoction skills massively nerfed. Conductivity now causes cursed enemies to have... So curses nerfed. They buffed curse magnitude and then they nerfed curses. Cold snap now has an explosion radius. Curse skills now apply their curse after a 1.5 second delay. Dark effigy projectiles now have critical chance of 7% and the impact radius of 1.2 meters. Quality now has a chance to inflict withered 0 to 20% instead of... So dark effigy nerfed. That's going to affect a couple of builds, but nothing major. Decompose now causes poison cloud. Poison enemies as though dealing chaos damage. Okay, so decompose nerfed by... What was that, like 60%? No, 50%. That's still big, and that kills decompose builds. Despair now causes negative 20%. Ooh. That's huge nerfs. Massive cast damage nerfs. Not that anyone was using cast damage, but massive cast damage nerfs. Detonate Dead now deals physical damage. Detonate Dead nerfed. So Detonate Dead nerfed by 50%. That's going to affect like blood mages. I think blood mages are really the only people detonating the dead. They nerfed chaos damage and Chayula. Not only did they nerf Chayula, they also nerfed chaos damage. Detonating arrows explosion radius nerfed. Direct minions now has a cooldown. Elemental invocation now gains 10 energy per power. Previously 10. 2 energy per power. Previously 3. Also now gains 1 energy per power of enemies you shock with hits previously. So elemental invocation nerfed. Escape shot. No one cares. Explosive concoction has more ignites. But concoctions are nerfed. Explosive grenade now has a 7-second cooldown. And a 3-second detonation time. So grenades nerfed. Go witch hunters. Grenades nerfed. And poor witch hunter. Grenades nerfed. Fireball, Raging Spirit nerfed. Doesn't matter because cast on minion is dead anyway. That's irrelevant. Eye of Winter now gains 75% of the damage of the corresponding type when it passes over elemental ground. The skill also no longer incorrectly states that projectiles that the projectile applies to pass over ground effects to nearby enemy. Irrelevant. Falling Thunder now has 50% damage per power charge. It doesn't matter because you nerf power charges. Firebolt now has a maximum downward tilt angle against closer targets, making it harder to hit enemies with multiple explosions. Okay. Firestorm's improved bolts now have... No one was using Firestorm! Flame Blast now has a cooldown. Who broke Flame Blast? Who broke Flame Blast that they needed to hammer nerf Flame Blast into the ground? Flame Wall nerfed. So now Spark is less viable for leveling, even though it was already not good. Flammability now causes more curse nerfs. Dude, the curse nerfs are big. Fragmentation rounds nerfed. Where's the galvanic shards and the other stupid shocking thing nerfed? Flash grenade, fragmentation rounds, there's freezing shards nerfed. Freezing salvo nerfed. I thought they were gonna buff crossbows. Crossbow now has pulsing explosion radius. Crossbow now has a cooldown of 5 seconds. Doesn't matter, you broke crossbow. Frozen locusts, explosion now deals base quarterstaff unchanged up to the damage fast. Explosion radius is now 2. The frozen locust got buffed. No one's gonna use it. Fulminating concoction now has more chance to shock. No one cares. Galvanic shards now converts 60%. That's a buff. Gas arrow, gas grenades, and decompose now have a limit of 6 poison clouds. Gas arrow nerfed? They nerfed gas arrow? What the fuck, GGG. Last epoch, this is your opportunity. Grim Feast can no longer be engraved in the gem cutting menu. Existing Grim Feast gems have been disabled. We aim to rework Grim Feast. Grim Feast dead. Woo! Cut. Hammer of the Gods no longer has a cooldown, but now requires 20 glory to use. Glory is a resource that gets built up by heavy stunning enemies. Now you have to heavy stun the boss before you can Hammer of Gods it. Hand of Chila now specifies that it triggers socketed marks. Herald skills with attack hits now properly state their hits cannot be evaded. Herald of Ash's explosion range. Herald of Ash now provides, instead of ignite with overkill, to benefit those active detrimental. I mean, that's okay. Herald of Ice's explosion radius nerfed. Herald of Plague now requires a martial weapon, making it consistent with weapon restrictions of other Herald skills. Herald of Thunder's bolt impact was nerfed. Hex Blast can now only detonate curses which have 50% of the duration remaining. This means it can never explode curses that have an infinite duration. They fucking nerfed Hex Blast? Who was playing Hex Blast? Hex Blast dead. Sad. Hex Blast dead. Ice crystals now have lowered life scaling. No ice shards, explosions. No one cares. Cooldowns are shared between travel skills. Improved ball lightning's description that the ball itself does not hit enemies. Improved skeletal clerk behavior. Incinerate now has 25% less ignite duration. No leap slam. No one fucking cares. Lightning Conduit now performs a number of extra lightning bolts if it consumes shocks. These bolts are distributed among targets in the area, but can hit the same target multiple times if a few enough targets are hit. Okay. Lightning Bolt now has shock chance. Lightning Conduit has 20% more damage with hits per 5% previously. So, Lightning Conduit got 80% nerfed. 80% nerfed. Stormweaver got fucking hammered. Magma Spray, no one cares. Nerfed. Magma Spray got nerfed. Magnetic Salvo nerfed. Mana Tempest quality now grants additional damage gain instead of causing its effects to linger on you. Mana Tempest buffed. Mantra of Destruction's Purple Flames, no one cares. Malice now applies critical weakness every 0.52 seconds. It doesn't matter because Malice dead. Because critical weakness does not refresh. So Malice is dead. Nerfs don't matter. Molten Blast now has wild dual wielding, fires twice as many projectiles with 15% less attack speed. Molten Blast dual wielding got buffed. No one cares. Pain Offering's Aura now grants increased minion damage rather than more damage. I mean, this is a nerf to just basically everyone. So, Pain Offering dead. Perfect Strike no longer always ignites and now has attack speed. Base quality now provides more ignite chance. Perfect Strike now also deals damage in a wider area, close to the player, making it less likely to miss. No one cares. Permafrost Bolt now scale freeze build up with gem level up to no one cares. Plague Bearer now stores. Plague Bearer now stores 1.7% more damage. Guys, Plague Bearer Plague Bearer got a 1.7% buff. Hooah! Poisonous Concoction got this damage conversion instead of cast damage, but more magnitude of poison. Peaconk nerfed. Raging Spirits nerfed. Oh my god. Ripwire, whatever. Rolling Slam got a buff. No one cares. Sacrifice now has minions revive more slowly. Shard Scavenger now instantly reloads your crossbow upon consuming no more than once. No one cares. Shattering Concoction, no one cares. Shattering Palm Explosions nerfed because we didn't want Shattering Palm to be good. Shield Wall, Segment, Life, Pass Gym level 29 matches that of Ice Crystals. This is a reduction in total life. So they did not nerf Shield Wall Trample Toe. That may be the only viable build left, which is dumb. Shock Chain Arrows can now chain 8 meters away. No one cares. No one uses it. Siphoning Strike. No one cares. No one uses it. Skeletal Arsonist Explosive Demise skill now deals additional fire damage equal to 12% of the minion's maximum life. Nerf. Brute now causes more stun buildup. Nerf. Frost Mage's Ice Bomb. Nerfed. Skeletal Reavers now correctly gain rage on hit when their command and rage is active. Okay. Storm Mage, Chain Count, no one cares. Skeletal Warrior can no longer be engraved. Skeletal Warriors are not fun, are gone. Snipes, attack speed, multiplying mana cost, so the attack time matches time until a perfect strike. This is mainly to improve descriptions and functions, skills unchanged. Storm Wave, Shock, Soul Offering. Okay. Spark now fires less projectiles. Spark got nerfed by 50%. The Spark nerfed by 50% on top of everything else. Oh, we're about to see the Tempest Bell nerfs too. Spiral Volley got nerfed or buffed. Ooh. Thunder now has a little bit lower attack added time. Stampede quality got nerfed. Storm Blast bolts no longer have 30% less reload speed. Stormcaller's arrow has less shock chance. Tempest Bell's impact now deals 490%. Now requires 10 combo to use previously 4, and the bell is destroyed after 10 hits at all gemms. Now causes the bell to be destroyed after 2 hits. Tempest Bell got pretty heavily nerfed. It got a small buff on the damage, but you get half as many bells. So like, here we go. So we get as it's 490 divided by 316. So we get like a 55% buff to the damage. But then you get a 60% nerf to the amount of bells you can have. Sorry. It was 10 hits at all levels. Previously it was 25. So same thing, 60. So The bell is available less frequently. We had a 60% nerf. So overall, an 80% nerf to Tempest Bell. Overall, 80% nerf to Tempest Bell. And then another 30% instead of 60%. And then, ooh, Tempest Bell dead. Tempest Bell just straight dead. That's like a 95% nerf. And that's like a straight 95% nerf on Tempest Bell. So like, that's huge. That's gonna affect Gimling. That's gonna affect Invoker. That's gonna affect some Deadeyes. That's a lot of nerfs. Limit on number of bells placed is now shared between different copies of the skill. That's fine. That was unintended interaction. Tempest Bell can only trigger every... Tempest Bell dead. High attack speed doesn't matter anymore. Tempest Bell dead. The on-kill effects can no longer trigger... Herald's dead. Herald chaining dead. Toxic growth now requires more stored poison to reach maximum. More stored poison to expire faster. Pustule duration of stored poison now adds 1.5 meters. Now fires 6 arrows. The toxic growth nerfed. Toxic growth massively nerfed. What? I mean, we'll just file that into Pathfinder, I guess. Toxic growth nerfed. Gas arrow nerfed. So the only viable Pathfinder builds in existence all nerfed. Vaulting impact, no one cares. Vine arrow now has a limit of 1 plant. Vine arrow dead, Sag. Volcanic fissure has a limit of 8 concurrent fissures. No more frying CPUs or GPUs. And the aftershocks, volcanic fissure dead. Okay, volcanic fissure dead. These skills are just dead. It's not that they're nerfed, they're dead. Voltaic grenade, nerfed. Wave of frost, no one cares. Wind dancer. Now grants 10% more evasion per stage of all gym levels. Previously 19%. Wind dancer just nerfed. But Wind dancer nerfed affects all evasion builds. Withering presence. Now whether no one cares. Skills with expanding ground effects are unintentionally scaling radius over time instead of area of effect. They still scale the radius, though we've updated descriptions to lower the values of many effective. So poison clouds are all dead anyway. Disciple, the discipline and purity are as granted by some scepters now apply to the player wielding the scepter as well as their allies. Okay, that's good. Spread of grenade skills with more than one projectile has been reduced. Releasing raised shield immediately after blocking a skill now performs a shield bash. No one cares. Added a new gym tag conditional. Modifiers, adding or subtracting the value now apply before cost multipliers. That's good. Oh, God. This last epoch. You're looking like this is your capitalize, motherfuckers. Just buff everything and capitalize. Astral projection now causes supported skills to have less area of effect. No one cares. Brutality, more physical damage. Brutality nerfed. Burning inscription, no one cares. Cannibalism, no one cares. Capacitor, that's a nerf. Close combat, No one cares. Considered casting. No one cares. Control destruction and distraction supports now correctly are not socketable into skills with its secondary damaging hits, but no spell damage hits. These supports are never scaling damage. They were just incorrectly socketable. Crescendo has whatever. Culmination now causes supported skills to deal 3% more damage per combo. And now lose combo if you generate no combo for 4 seconds. Exploit weakness. Deal 40% more damage. They buffed damage to fully broken armor for Fizz, but then they nerfed all of the things that damage fully broken armor. And so they nerfed fully broken armor. I don't know why they would do that. Like, fully broken armor buffed and nerfed result in overall nerf. Because I mean, we had earlier where they gave us a fully broken armored more Fizz, but haha, just kidding, nerfed. Fading Frenzy can no longer support minions which are undamageable. Fist of War now is a cost multiplier. Hourglass, no one is ever going to use that. No one cares. Impact Shockwave and Aftershock dealing the same damage to enemies. Okay. Impetus now is a cost multiplier. Okay. Lockdown. So, cast on X Spirit costs much higher. They're adding all these mana costs. Magnified Effect has a cost multiplier. They don't want anyone to have any area of effect. Meat Shield now makes them take less damage instead of granting them 50% more max life. That's a nerf to a lot of minion builds that require max life, like Decompose builds. Oh, the Decompose is dead, so that doesn't matter. Mobility support, no one cares. Neural Overload has no more cast, no one cares. Scattershot now has 35% less damage. More bow builds nerfed. Scattershot nerfed. All bow builds nerfed. All bow builds across the board were nerfed. Shock Siphon can no longer be engraved. No more Shock Siphon. Spell Echo support can no longer support triggered skills. Cast on X. I mean, just general cast on X nerfed. Spiral Volley now fires directly forward with the first arrow instead of the final arrow. I don't give a fuck. Strip Away nerfed. Exposure is nerfed in general. Unbreakable now has a window of opportunity now causes to deal 35% more damage instead of 50, and 35% shorter perfect timing window instead of 25. Withering Touch now has a chance to apply Withered based on the amount of chaos damage from and allows that chance to roll over when it potentially apply. No one cares. This is just saying you can no longer wither with like, and this falls under the chaos nerfs. Like, all chaos damage nerfed, wither nerfed, curse nerfed. They're just all chaos damage is nerfed. Unique item changes. The only unique items in the game that were usable are going to be the ones nerfed. The Against the Darkness unique jewel now has a medium radius, nerfed. Nerfed. Astramentis, nerfed. Ethereus Disdain, massively nerfed. Like, this item is dead anyway. Ethereus Disdain is dead with the exception of Lich using this, but it's still nerfed for Lich. The Choir of the Storm once again triggers Lightning Bolt. Greater Lightning Bolt removed. So, Blood Mage, Choir nerfed. Dream Fragments nerfed. Everlasting Gaze now causes 4 to 6% previously. Holy shit. Everlasting Gaze nerfed into oblivion. Fire Flower, no one's going to use it because Cast on Minion is dead. Ghost Drive nerfed, Ghost Drive dead. Hand of Wisdom in action nerfed by, we're going to call that 65%. That falls under the attribute stacking nerfs. So I'm going to go ahead and say attribute stacking nerfed by approximately 70%. The Ingenuity Belt got nerfed. That's okay. Yo, they made it so that it only affects the left and right ring. It does not affect your third ring on your girl. So everyone who was like, oh my god, 3 rings Ingenuity Belt, doesn't matter. Ingenuity Belt doesn't affect it. The last flame damage taken cannot be absorbed. Okay. This just makes it harder to get a Temporalis. Mahuzatl's Machination Shield now has 100% increase. Mahuzatl's Machination dead Sag. The Melting Maelstrom Flask no longer recover all mana when used. Mana stacking is dead. Warrior Invictus dead. I mean, not dead, but much less useful. No more rarity on Soul Core, no more max life, no more mana, no more attributes. Attribute stacking, I'm going to bump that up to 75% nerfed. the Oaksworn Shield no longer gives 50 spirit. Nerfed. The Pillar of Caged Gods, now 1% increase attack speed per 10 dex and 1% increase area per 10. 50% nerf on the Pillar. We're going to bump that attribute stacking up to 80% nerfed. Queen of the Forest no longer gives 1% movement speed per 800 or per 500. It's now per 800. So movement nerfed. Sandstorm Visage causes enemies to gain critical weakness 1 second for 15 seconds. It doesn't matter because critical weakness no longer refreshes itself. So critical weakness is nerfed. Temporalis, whatever. Trench Timber nerfed because minion builds were too strong. Venter's Gamble, rarity nerfed. Updated Gravebind to state the enemy must be in your presence, not the ally. Whatever. That just makes life harder on group play. Soul of Ipsis and the generally studded ascendancy to reflect the fact that they stack with each other. This is not a functional change. Correct with the wording on the no longer implied alternate bonus grant. Bonus. That's okay. Timeless Jewel, monopathic grants. Notable paths still increases magnitude now grants. They're nerfing the magnitude of damaging ailments. The name of the keystone, no one cares. Item changes. Jeweler's Orbs now set a skill gem to have a specified number of support gem sockets rather than adding one. That's good. No more advanced expert names, which is fine. I don't give a fuck. Runes, ball orbs on runes. Base damage on all crossbows have been increased. Crossbows now have two-handed versions of added damage modifiers. So crossbows are buffed, but crossbow skills are nerfed. Increased rarity of item found modifiers. Suffix modifier now because 25% is higher tier. Golden Charm nerfed. So rarity is nerfed. Breach rings nerfed. Not only did they nerf Ingenuity, they nerfed Breach rings. And they nerfed the rarity of Breach rings. Notable passive skills in starting years of each class can no longer be instilled. Okay. Increased effective auras from your skills can no longer roll on jewels or time loss. So Overwhelming presence is, or sorry, yeah. Overwhelming what? Presence, abuse, dead. Not Sag. Unintended interaction. Quiver bonuses, just straight dead. Cast on X, dead. No more rarity on Soul Cores. More attribute stacking, dead. Minions nerfed. Max mana nerfed. More max mana nerfs. More max mana nerfs. More max mana nerfs. Elemental mod, like leveling items got nerfed. The first 2 tiers of added elemental damage have had their values lowered. Why are you nerfing leveling items? Who fucking cares? Added lightning damage nerfed so that people don't only take added lightning damage. The relic modifier that causes burn should have grant additional items. No one cares. I'm not going to take any time going over any of this because none of this matters. Like, this is all just either buffs or nerfs to monsters, and this is all irrelevant. Quest changes. You must now open the Hellenic Gates before you go travel to the trials. Okay. User interface changes. I don't care. Microtransaction changes. Enabled some pet microtransactions. Enabled some portal. Enabled some finisher effect. Enabled some armor. So we got a few new things from PoE1. Bug fixes. We'll go over these because what they consider a bug fix could be a nerf, and that's a long list, but it's the last list. All right. Fix the bug where skills that allow movement during their actions wouldn't apply their slow at full effect if you higher values and not held down. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is a straight fucking quality of life nerf. You can no longer attack and then move. As soon as you attack, the attack animation is going to make you move ridiculously slowly the whole time. So there is no benefit to attacking and moving any longer. This is this is going to feel like hot fucking garbage in the game. This is going to feel so bad. This is just a bug fix that doesn't affect anything. Canceling a skill would still cause the player to gain Infernal Flame. When dancer stages could be kept after swapping, and issue with trigger skills were able to generate energy, such as Burning Inscription. So all the Burning Inscription loops are dead. Burning Inscription loop dead. They killed Bi-loop too, for that matter. Shattering Palms, Ignited Ground, created by Incinerate would not deal damage. Support gems applying it would apply twice. Okay. Thunder's Aftershocks could hit enemies too many times. I didn't know that. Tremor support could interfere with aftershock chances from other sources. We did talk about this a little bit. A resonating shield recovered stagger much faster than inherent ray shield. Blink could travel through walls. No more blinking through walls. Effects that consume shocks could only consume a single shock at once if the target had multiple active shocks. They now consume and benefit from all of them. Okay, but you nerfed everything lightning related. More projectile damage after piercing an enemy, granted by quality and did not function. Okay. Skill-based attacks did not do. Wonkiness could occur when using flasks. Like very poison, no stacks being cleared. Don't care. Ferocity support. Okay. Skeletons and paladin offerings can sometimes still use skills if commanded to do so. Okay. Emergency Reload to empower fewer attacks than intended. Okay. Second wind in demon form where the additional cooldown will still tick while in demon form. That's not a bug. That's a functionality of second wind. This right here, this is a dick move. Doesn't matter because Byloop is dead anyway, and demon form might as well be dead. Fixed a rounding issue that could cause some skills used by infernals sometimes fail to generate infernal flame. Okay, fixed a bug that caused lingering illusion to stop functioning where it's supported by specific support gems if you had little unreserved. Okay. Fixed a bug where stomping ground would not function if you had a wand or scepter. Okay. Crossbow shot could consume more than one bolt. Eye of Winter passing over only got the one rather than all of them. Okay. Fixed a bug where collapsing horizon was providing its elemental gem mobile bonus multiple times to skills that require. That's not a bug. But okay, I get it. Fixed a bug where shield charge was not correctly interacting. I mean, this unique item is dead now. I fixed a bug where shield charge was not correctly interacting with active block mechanics. Fixed a bug where the damage gain is extra on detonating arrows applied at the same time as non-skill. Cast on block was granting the wrong amount of energy. Previously displayed 250, but actually granting 2.5, but now it's granting 25. Okay. Vial of Fusion was not correctly scaling with area damage. Okay. Skill cooldowns stop when under the effects of multiple sources of cooldown recovery rate. Okay. Fixed a bug where damage bonus for crush clip was shared between skills and weapon sets. Ooh. That's I mean that's fair. But no more weapon swapping fresh clip to do big damage. I fixed a bug that would cause Mana Tempest to stop draining the player's mana. Okay, fixed a bug where shockwaves triggered by striking Tempest spell was not scaling correctly with knockback. Okay. Fixed a bug where thorns, no one gives a fuck. Fiery Death. Explosion was not considered a triggered skill and therefore could be supported by some skill. Okay. More poisons than should be active could damage the same target when the poisons had different limits. Okay. Projectiles cannot chain, such as lightning arrow or chaining off of train. Okay. Marks could deal offhand hits while dual wielding, causing 0 damage. Don't have offhand. Okay. Various aftershock related stacks apply specifically to your skills, also apply to totem. Iron Grip and Iron Will would affect allowing spell damage increases to apply to attacks. How was that a bug? That's it. Aftershocks caused by dude, last epoch. I hope they understand their opportunity here. I really do. Fix the bug where sources of less minimum more, such as heft support, and were not working correctly with damage conversion. I don't know what that means. Other skills were not counting energy costs for subsequent skills if the skill consumed corpse. Socket burst at sense. Okay. Gathering Storm was not affected by ground duration. Lord of the Pit boss. Fire exposure on fully breaking armor, but not always apply consistently. Fix the bug where soul rin projectiles were anyone. Salt, like Ghost Dance, quality, Volcanic Fisher's dead, it doesn't matter. Offerings are mostly dead. Shockwave Totem, whatever. Ballista could target inanimate objects. No one cares. That's a good fix on bugs. Gale Force skill turbine were not being like toxic growth poisoning on hit not described. Maximum number of active lightning rods did not display on the gym, only on the skill information panel. Fix the bug where Ballista and Ancestral Warrior Jump did not display their weapons based critical hit chances. And the rest of the stuff just is nonsense. Martial tempo was able to support triggered skills. Ghost Dance did not display the maximum number of ghost charges you could have on the gym. Holy Descent and Shocking not enable area duration and ground effects. Fixed bugway. Benefit provided by was functional change. The benefit was previously not described. Reduced resistance incorrectly granting maximum elemental resistance, lowering them. I never noticed that. And this is all looks like nonsense. I don't see fireball traps. Some reward markers, rare chests, barrel bog. Gain damage with extra cast damage modifier. Ming's Heart was not affected by Chayula's catalysts. Fixed a bug where Matsia unique skills reserve 50% less spirit would not apply to totems when using Ancestral Bond. Fixed an issue where critical damage per power charge modifier on the power was being described as base critical damage bonuses. At least knew that. Spirit granted was still granted when you could not gain spirit from equipment. I didn't know that. At Sax sight, unique helmet did not cause critical hits with spells like poison. Benefits of electrocution passive went in prematurely. Okay. Second flame. Enemies in your presence resist elemental damage based on their player instead of enemies. I didn't know that. Take damage. Fix the bug where Falcon Dive notable 1% per 150 instead of per 250. Fix the bug where Falcon Dive notable passive skill was providing 1% increased attack speed per 150 accuracy offhand. I didn't know that. Fix the bug where a number of passive skills grant bonuses while wielding a staff were also functioning while wielding a quarterstaff. Most of these now only work with staffs. However, increased defenses granted by the one with the river are now only granted while wielding a quarterstaff. So a quarterstaff is not a staff. Time lost tool modifiers. Scepters did not stack. Also fixes where layer cast could not stack. Gloves corruption enchantment causes enemies to drop increased gold did not function. Quality on scepters multiply the amount of spirit granted instead of granting quality to their inherent skill. That was a bug? Okay, so spirit nerfed across the board. Spirit massively nerfed across the board. Fixed a bug where unhindered notified could not be installed an amulet. Greater essences could not be used on items socketed in them. Two small passively repulsion node were incorrectly granting spell skills. Increased area of effect instead of damage. Attack while imprisoned in essence. Stuck between a wall and some indestructible pottery. Increased gem levels of gold are not displaying when socketed inside metagems. Controller input. Targeting issues with controller. Not able. Added the ability to lock your main hand offense so the same item between weapon sets. How did that not? All right. Quick summary. Quick summary. Attribute stacking nerfed by 80%. Cast on X, everything nerfed by like 60%. All evasion builds nerfed. All bow builds nerfed. All chaos damage nerfed. All lightning damage nerfed. All curses nerfed. All max mana nerfed. Physical damage nerfed. Broken armor nerfed. Cast on minion death dead. Hex blast dead. Pain offering dead. Tempest belt dead. Herald training dead. Vine arrow dead. Volcanic fissure dead. All loops dead. Individual classes, they managed to nerf the least played class in the game, Chayula. Blood Mage, Detonate Dead nerfed, Choir nerfed, dead. Maybe a new Fizz crit build or a bleed build. Chronomancer maybe can do something with Unleash, I don't know. Deadeye, they nerfed anything related to Spark, so all Spark Deadeye builds dead. Combat Frenzy nerfed, but they buffed Spiral Arrow, but Combat Frenzy nerfed means Spiral Arrow is basically dead. Gemling Legionnaire, all attribute stacking dead, all Spark dead, all grenades nerfed. Gemling Legionnaire basically just nerfed. Infernalist, demon form Infernalists are probably dead. Hellhound dead. Obviously, Byloop dead. Invoker, Monk, defenses are slightly buffed. Spirit nerfed, which could be a problem. Elemental Expression buffed. Tempest Bell dead, which basically is the only thing holding the class together until you can outgear the content. And again, Combat Frenzy nerfed. Pathfinder, concoctions, probably dead. I don't really understand what they mean by unarmed weapon set. If it means you cannot equip a bow and quiver while using concoctions, Pathfinder dead. Or concoctions dead, which means Pathfinder dead. If I was misreading that or misinterpreting it, and you can still use a bow and quiver, Pathfinder's still probably dead because quivers are dead. Gas Arrow's dead. Toxic Growth is dead. And then Flash Charges are nerfed for concoctions, which makes it much more painful. Stormweaver dead. I mean, Shock Stormweaver dead. Lightning Stormweaver dead. Mana Regen 60% nerfed. Exposures 15% nerfed. Shock Magnitude 25% nerfed. Maximum Mana 40% nerfed. Eldritch Battery mana cost makes Eldritch Battery almost not runnable. Lightning Conduit 80% nerfed. Malice nerfed. Spark nerfed. Pain Offering nerfed. Stormweaver's basically dead. Titan? I hate to say this. Warriors look like the best choice. Titan got insignificant buffs to slams and stun damage. Warbringer got almost no changes of significance. Witch Hunter didn't get nerfed. Well, grenades got nerfed, but Witch Hunter didn't get nerfed. The proposed classes, bows are nerfed, hammer nerfed. So any Boazon stuff, Bow Huntress, those are massively nerfed before they even existed. Lich got heavy buffer for synergy with like your life cannot be changed and taking damage to energy shield for damage passes through energy shield. But then Atziri's Disdain got nerfed, so like you still get some decent damage reduction, but it's not as tanky as people were hoping. Overall, I'm looking very forward to Last Epoch. See y'all soon. Peace.